Welcome to Philippine Canadian Inquirer's Daily News Roundup, brought to you by CanadianInquirer.net, your only Filipino-Canadian daily news portal. I'm Rowan Echo, and here are stories making headlines today. Palace calls for unity, resiliency on Yolanda anniversary. 4 years after the super typhoon Yolanda hampered Visayas, Malacanang has called on Filipinos to unite and display resilience as the government continues with its effort to rebuild and rehabilitate the areas devastated by the typhoon. Quote, as we move forward, we must continue to stand united and exhibit a strong and resilient Filipino spirit as we build a better nation where there is comfortable life for all, unquote, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said in a statement. On November 8, 2013, a super typhoon Yolanda or Haiyan destroyed Visayas areas, leaving more than 6,000 fatalities and less than 100 billion of pesos of damage to property, according to the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. Roque also said that the typhoon is a story of faith and hope that characterizes our people. Quote, it is an account of courage and compassion that we must demand from our leaders, unquote, he said. Roque added that the Duterte administration has pursued rehabilitation and reconstruction of Yolanda-affected communities as well as seaports, airport facilities, and classrooms. Quote, our shelter assistance in Tacloban City is the most successful model in the Yolanda Permanent Housing Program, with the most number of resettlement houses occupied at 10,703 units from a total housing target of 14,433 houses, unquote, the spokesman said. Quote, as we commemorate the deadliest typhoon that hit the Philippines on record and offer prayers to those who lost their lives, we also keep in mind the lessons learned brought by such great tragedy, unquote, he added. HRW urges world leaders to address human rights crisis at APEC and ASEAN. World leaders will meet for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Vietnam, and the 31st Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit in the Philippines should address the deteriorating human rights situations in some ASEAN countries, Human Rights Watch said on Thursday. The Human Rights Advocates Group urged the heads of states to talk about the supposed extrajudicial killings in the Philippines, which the group described as a campaign of extrajudicial killings targeting drug dealers and users whose victims are predominantly the urban poor, including children, unquote. HRW Asia Director Brad Adams said the Rohingya crisis is the worst human rights catastrophes in Asia in years, urging world leaders to concert global action. Quote, world leaders shouldn't return home from these summits without agreeing to targeted sanctions to pressure Burma to end its abuses and allow in independent observers and aid groups, unquote, Adams said. Moreover, Adams urged the visiting leaders to release political prisoners and stop prosecuting peaceful dissent in Vietnam. Quote, Vietnam's abusive one-party state is hosting a major summit while more than 100 dissidents are languishing in prison, unquote, Adams said. Meanwhile, HRW noted that the allies of Thailand should use the Asia summits to insist that improved relations depend on the government abandoning managed democracy and restoring civilian democratic rule and political freedoms. Quote, Thailand was once one of Asia's leading democracies, but now it is stagnating under military rule, unquote, Adams said. Trump criticizes one-sided Chinese trade deals. President Donald Trump on Thursday criticized the very one-sided and unfair trade relationship between the U.S. and China, but stopped short of castigating Chinese President Xi Jinping by saying he doesn't blame the country for taking advantage of the U.S. Speaking after the announcement of new business deals between U.S. and Chinese companies, Trump said the U.S. and China must immediately address the unfair trade practices that drive the trade deficit, along with barriers to market success, forced technology transfers, and intellectual property theft. Quote, but I don't blame China, unquote, he said. Quote, after all, who can blame a country for being able to take advantage of another country for the benefit of its citizens, unquote. To applause, he said, quote, I give China great credit, unquote. Trump's comments came during his second day in China and after lengthy meetings with Xi. That wraps it for news here on PZI Daily News Roundup. Thank you for joining us. For more news stories, visit our website at www.canadianinquirer.net.